Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
It's back. Experience golf like never before. A party New Orleans style.
Hey, New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold, bringing world-class rugby to the Crescent City. The game is fast, the hits are hard, the fan experience is for real. Season tickets, lifetime tickets, and game day passes are all available at NOLAGoldRugby.com. I'm John Goodman, and I'll see you in the scrum.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and what an incredible time of year. That's right, the third or fourth straight week I've said that, but this is wonderful this time of year because this Thursday, the Jazz and Heritage Festival starts over at the Fairgrounds. 2 weeks of just pure fun. And of course, the Zurich Classic. We had the chairman, Steve Worthy, on last week. That starts Thursday as well. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get on out and support both those great New Orleans events. And by the way, the NBA playoffs have 10 days in the books and only about 1,000 to go. Nah, not necessarily 1,000, but it feels like that. Two teams have already swept their way into the second round. The Celtics, they were the first to do it this past Sunday. They dispatched the Pacers. They have Kyrie Irving, who you see there, and the guy the Pelicans hope to get, Jason Tatum, and possibly a deal for Anthony Davis. They're going to play the second round against this team, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks and Houston both had a chance last night to do the sweep themselves, but only Giannis and the Bucks accomplished the feat. The Rockets, on the other hand, they got swamped by the Jazz in the second half, forcing Game 5 later this week in Houston. Speaking of the NBA, the Pelicans, well, they introduced David Griffin. That's right, that's my camera. I took that shot last week at the press conference, and there's Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscha. It's going to be a great day and great period for New Orleans Pelican basketball. Get ready, because this guy is very convincing. Hey, LSU, they announced the new athletic director, Scott Woodward, coming from Texas A&M. He's a Baton Rouge native. He's the one that signed up Jimbo Fisher last year. This year he got Buzz Williams from Virginia Tech. And for basketball, there's Buzz right there. They're doing a little A&M dance. No more. He's at LSU. Speaking of the Tigers, how about this? LSU gymnastics. We had Dee Dee Bro on a couple weeks ago. They finished second in the entire country for the third time in the last 4 years. They had the best score they've ever had that normally would have been enough to win it all, but Oklahoma did even better. There's Sarah Finnegan. They say the best to ever wear the purple and gold. LSU baseball, they won 2 out of 3 against powerhouse Florida, and Tulane split against Memphis, but Cody Hosey still leads all of college baseball in home runs. How about this guy? He's got 19. Hey, the NFL draft is this week. The Saints, they only have a second-round pick to go along with the fifth, 2 6s and 2 7s. We'll see what they do. Like I said, the Zurich Classic this week, the NOLA Gold. Man, they lost a tough one, 25-24, but they still remain in first place, and they look to take the championship just in a few weeks. The NOLA Gold are fun. Go check them out on May 4th. Hey, we got a great show. Donnie Lewis Jr. from Tulane is going to be here, as well as my man David Grubb to break down the entire NBA playoffs. Stay tuned. It's coming up next.
Look in the paper as I greet a new day.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. This is going to be a show that I cannot wait to do because it's a lot going to be NBA and also have a tremendous young man from Tulane University. His name is Donnie Lewis Jr., and hopefully he'll be drafted this week. We have a long tradition of having guys the week they are drafted on this show from Tulane and LSU, so I cannot wait for his segment. But right now, NBA basketball. I know a lot of you love the NBA. Because in New Orleans, they say it's the 3rd to 5th most watched market for the playoffs and et cetera for the NBA all season long. And it's going to happen again, hopefully this year. But there's our chair. That's the NBA playoff chair right there. But we're going to talk with David Grubb from Crescent City Sports. And we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs this segment. And we're going to do it so much, we're going to bring him back after the Donnie Lewis segment and talk more. But here he is. He has become a fixture at the Pelicans games the last 3 years. Yes. And you're sitting there at every game. I'm so impressed with you, David, because you drive in from Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that until about less than a year ago, because you're at every game. Yeah. And I love it. You're like what I used to be, at every single game, but you're there supporting this team and covering them.
I love it. I mean, this is my favorite sport. It's the thing that I got back into sports writing to cover. They have the opportunity to cover professional basketball. And obviously it's been a crazy ride. I started in 2014.
Right.
So it's been an exhilarating ride to watch this team, and I'm really excited about the future of it, especially these last couple weeks with David Griffin coming on board. I think there's great things ahead for the Pelicans.
Well, let me ask you, since you just brought that up, you said that you got back into sports writing. Well, give me your. I know you went to Carr, you played hoops, you went to Wake Forest, a wonderful university up there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And then what happened to you?
I got into sportscasting first. I came back to Louisiana and I worked at KLAX in Alexandria.
Oh, yeah.
And after that, I went to WGGB in Springfield, Massachusetts. And
wow, okay.
Yeah, so I like TV, but as you probably have learned over the years in talking with me, I like to run my mouth a little bit, and TV doesn't always give me.
You do run your mouth in a good way. By the way, Springfield, I mean, obviously the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, that's the holy grail. Right. How amazing was that?
Oh, it was awesome. My first year there, the Hall of Fame class included Isaiah Thomas and Pat Summitt.
Oh, my goodness.
Which was amazing.
Legends.
And then, all the greats who come back. I got to do a one-on-one interview with Dr. J, and that was really like me turning back into a kid after I finished that, running to the car and calling my dad.
I have a lot of love for Isaiah because my first-round pick, he picked Wilson Chandler when he was with the Knicks. And you can say what you want about him as a GM. The one thing that dude did was draft well. But we do have bad memories with him, too, because LSU got to the Final Four. They had a 10-point lead against Isaiah in Indiana in 1981, and Isaiah ends up beating them and taking the national championship the next game.
Yes, they did.
Hey, moving forward, let's talk about the Pelicans. David Griffin was just announced. Obviously he was announced, but then he was just introduced to the media last week, but I talked about it a little bit in the open. Your take on this hiring and your take on the future of the Pelicans and Anthony Davis as far as being trade bait, et cetera.
Well, I think the first thing is we start with Mrs. Benson.
Yeah.
This was her first major hire.
Yeah.
Dennis Lauscha, Mickey Loomis, all of those guys were hired by her husband. And now this is her first step in taking control of the organization.
Yep.
Her fingerprints are now firmly on the Pelicans. The story has always been that she pushed Tom to buy the Pelicans. She's wanted to keep this team in the city. She has a fondness for them. We saw her travel last year to every playoff game that they had. And I know that she's made this commitment to build a true basketball organization, make that divorce from the football side and create a basketball structure. You bring in a guy like David Griffin, the first thing he does, and Les East, who works, I work alongside at Crescent City Sports, made this analogy. This is a lot like when the Saints hired Jim Finks.
Yes, it is.
It gives you that credibility around the league, a guy who's won, a guy who's about his business, and you bring him in and instantly people are going to value your organization's decision-making that much more.
That's a great point. I love the way you put that because around the league, it did mean, like, listen, you can say what you want about he's 3 straight finals with the Cavaliers. He obviously won an NBA championship. But it means across the league that, okay, this team means business. They went and got the best available guy, and now they're going to go forward. What is your take inside about the Anthony Davis situation and where he goes? I know they kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, we're going to talk to Rich Paul, and we're going to see if we can work this out because LA has become a dumpster fire.
Right.
Where and is New York really great, or Boston? Obviously, Boston would be a nice scenario for him personally. But what's your take on how this thing's going to flush out?
I think David Griffin handled it perfectly.
Yeah.
You have to, as the new GM, first say, I'm coming into this with fresh eyes.
Right.
No decision has been made. You're going to meet with Anthony Davis. You know that the trade is going to happen. I don't think anything changes that situation. The bridges have been burned with that regard. You can't bring him back into the locker room after you've also retained Alvin Gentry. He doesn't want to do that again.
Right.
So I think with Anthony, what you're going to do is continue to be patient. The lottery is extremely important, obviously, for the Pelicans making a decision going forward. The way the playoffs play out is certainly going to affect the decision-making of a number of players. So if you're Griffin, again, you're not in a rush. Even if you don't get the best deal that you want right now, you still have Davis until this year's trade deadline, and you're going to make the best deal. He said that. This is about the Pelicans first. He's not going to be pushed into anything. You're either all in and you're all out, or you're all out. Anthony Davis has already let us know he's all out.
Yeah.
But you're going through the process of making sure that the public knows that you're willing to evaluate this. You're not going to make rash decisions.
You mentioned the lottery. That is in 3 weeks. And that is a big day. I mean, listen, the Pelicans have a 6% chance to be the first pick. I think they're in the 20-something range to be in the first 3 picks, maybe 4 picks. But the fact is that would be a kind of a weird scenario if Anthony Davis were to be back at least for a half a season next year. It would make for some good TV. But what do you think?
It's a long, drawn-out divorce if that happens, because I think Drew Holiday has accepted the role of leader and has pulled that on to his shoulders. And I think, it makes it difficult for him to do that. Whatever players you do bring in next season, because we know there's going to be some roster overhaul. You have as many as 10 guys who are going to be free agents this offseason. So you want to be able to start fresh as best you can. So I think Anthony Davis slows that process down if he is back in the fall. But we have to give Griffin the leeway to do what he thinks is best.
Is Jason Tatum a possibility? I mean, I know that's who everybody wants, but I've been around Danny Ainge a lot because I worked with him in the late 90s. And I know this dude is competitive, and I know this dude will do anything he can to keep the best players on his team. Do you think he'll let us pry Jason Tatum and maybe a first-round pick or 2 away from them?
Here's what I think my dream scenario would be. Boston and Milwaukee in the second round.
Okay.
Go 7 games.
Yeah.
But Giannis is unstoppable.
Yeah, there you go.
So then if you're the Celtics, you go to Kyrie, if you're Danny Ainge, and you say, Kyrie, we're a big guy away. We could have beaten the Bucks. Yes. We're a big guy. We don't have anybody to challenge Giannis.
And Kyrie's a free agent. I'm letting people know that.
Right. So if you say, you stay, we get AD, we still got Jaylen Brown, we bring back Terry Rozier, we bring those guys, we give up a couple of young players, and you get Anthony Davis, and we're still in the East.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the Sixers could be broken up. You have Jimmy Butler as a free agent. Tobias Harris is going to be a free agent. So you don't know if those guys are going to stay.
Sure.
You look at Toronto, Kawhi Leonard leaves. Boston can certainly feel like our window is 2 to 3 years. We get the best of Anthony Davis, the best of Kyrie Irving for that, and they could still be willing to part with Tatum as long as the price doesn't decimate their roster.
I love Tatum. Hey, by the way, since you brought that up, that's a perfect segue. We're going to talk NBA playoffs. The first team to make it to the second round was the Boston Celtics. They took care of the Pacers. That game 2 was just crazy. Remember, the Pacers led the entire way. It was like 14 or 12 late, and then even in the last minute, the last minute they got outscored 10-0, and it was nuts, and they had it right there. But Boston advanced. Now the second team to advance was the Milwaukee Bucks. They did it last night. So now you have a repeat of this great series last year.
Yep.
The first round series, I remember watching every one of these games. They had some crazy ones. I remember I was at the French Quarter Fest, and I went into my friend's apartment, and it was like when they had this game, 2 game-winning shots. One team thought they had it, and all of a sudden the other takes like a 30-footer and wins it. But that went 7, and now that's a great, great second-round series because Giannis absolutely destroyed the Detroit Pistons. Even last night, the Pistons have double-digit lead the entire first half, basically, into the second half, and all of a sudden, it was another 25-point win by the Bucks on the road. So Talk about this series coming up and the Greek Freak and Kyrie Irving.
Well, I think the big thing is for Irving, you see he's been hitting his shots throughout the first round.
Yes, he has.
And he's one of the best playoff performers we have in this league. I mean, every year he's gotten to the postseason, he's put up big numbers. He's going to have to do that again against Milwaukee. He's got to beat Eric Bledsoe. He's got to beat that backcourt and score points for Boston. The big thing for Boston has been Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
I mean, you see him, he's finding
back.
his groove.
He's back.
Last game he goes 7 for 9 from the field, 3 for 3 from three-point range. If Gordon Hayward is hitting shots for Boston, that makes them so much more dangerous. And then when you look at Milwaukee, it all starts with Giannis, but Chris Middleton has to hit shots.
Yeah.
Nico Mirotic
I love
has to hit
Chris Middleton,
shots.
by the way.
Great player.
Former Texas A&M Aggie. Got to throw that out there.
So, I mean, if Milwaukee, we know that these are two very good defensive teams, two of the best defensive teams in the league. So you don't expect to see a lot of 110 games, even though Milwaukee is also one of the top offensive teams in the league. I think this will be a real physical series. Giannis is going to want to pound down low, but Al Horford, again, we know he's one of the best low post defenders there around. So I think this is easily another series that goes 6 or 7 games between these two teams.
I'm going to say Al Horford, I was around him a lot in Atlanta. He is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He's not flashy whatsoever, but man, you ask any coach, they want an Al Horford on their team. I want to talk about Milwaukee, though, because this team had the best record in the NBA. And they did everything. Listen, they're going to get Malcolm Brogdon back real soon. He was an all-rookie player last year from Virginia, the year before, I should say, 2 seasons ago. He's important to me.
And vital to them.
Nico Mirotic just had some injuries. He's back now. But you got Eric Bledsoe. You got him in that deal from Phoenix last season. I just like how well-rounded this team is because they can beat you in a number of ways. Chris Middleton, we talked about, was an all-star this season. I mean, and then I'm even leaving out Brook Lopez, who all of a sudden is now a three-point shooter. I mean, so talk about this team and their chances not only to advance to the finals, but maybe even win it.
Yeah, last year the thing was if you could force Giannis to shoot from the outside, you could beat Milwaukee.
Yep.
And now offensively, they just have so many more weapons that don't allow you to crowd him inside.
Yes, good
and
point.
with the physical strength that he has this year, even going up from last year, he's just so hard to keep out of the paint with those shooters surrounding him. They absolutely can win the title this year.
The Sixers, listen, they've been much maligned. They have like a fantasy team right here, and they got beaten in Game 1 against the Nets. And then Ben Simmons heard the boos, right? And without Joel Embiid, they came out and just trucked the Brooklyn Nets, and now they've won the next 2 more competitive games, particularly the last one. And now they're up 3-1 in the series. But when you talk about Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, who they just picked up, Jimmy Butler, who they got before the season, and sharpshooting J.J. Redick, that's not a bad 5 either.
No, but they're bigger and stronger than the Nets. And that's really been the difference, is that they can dominate inside. Jared Allen's too small. We've seen him get tossed around by Joel Embiid, particularly the last 2 games. If he was stronger, he might have won the game for them last game. So I think just Philly found a great matchup. And sometimes in the playoffs, that's what all you're looking for is just the right matchup. They still have flaws.
Can they win?
No, I don't think they can win the title.
Win. Okay.
I think they're too immature.
They can't get to the finals.
No, I don't even think they get. I think they're just an immature team.
I got you. No, I got you. That's why I have you here. I wanted your opinion on that. And Toronto Raptors, listen, I like the way they play basketball. I'm sorry. If you want to watch, you take the Canada part out. If you want to watch a team that's fun to watch as far as basketball players, Kyle Lowry in his career has been kind of inconsistent in a lot of ways. But I like his temperament along with the guy because he's kind of fiery at times. Then you got the easygoing Kawhi Leonard who, let's be honest, the best two-way player in the game, right? I mean, in my opinion, he's the best two-way player in the game at this juncture. But what do you think about this team and their chances?
I really like Toronto too. I think they and Milwaukee are the 2 best teams in the East, and there's a good gap between the other 2 as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting.
Not a wide, but there's a gap.
And Pascal's playing well.
Oh
too.
yeah, I mean Siakam is one of my favorite players to watch. His versatility on the front court. When they have Ibaka in his role, when he's not trying to do too much,
Serge Ibaka,
he still controls the middle. And like you said, Danny Green, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, can hit a shot anywhere, anytime. We know he's clutch in the playoffs.
That's a nice 5.
A very good 5. And then when you look at what Leonard's doing, the efficiency in which he's scoring, he's able to put the ball on the floor. He gets to the spots he wants to. He's nailing over 50% of his shots. and defensively, he shuts anybody down you put in front of him.
This is why I brought him on. David Grubb, this is it. That is the Eastern Conference, and we talked some Pels. I saved our conference, the West, for later. So do you mind coming back, my friend?
Oh, absolutely not. Let's do this.
We'll come back. We're going to come back. Hey, we're going to get Donnie Lewis. You will love this guy in this segment. Donnie Lewis is such a fun-loving player, and he's going to be an NFL player coming up at the end of the week. The NFL draft is here. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
It's back. Experience golf like never before. A party New Orleans style.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Gene's Po' Boy on St. Claude and Elysian Fields has been the place in the 7th Ward for many years. From the hot and sloppy tender roast beef, the crispy fried fresh caught shrimp, to the hot sausage and cheese. It's Gene's Po' Boy on the streetcar line in the big pink building on St. Claude and Elysian Fields. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, we're not done with the NBA playoffs. I'm going to have David Grubb come back. We're going to talk the other conference, but right now it's going to be all football. My tradition here for the last few years is to bring on a Tulane and LSU player the week they get drafted. Hey, last year for Tulane, we had Perry Nickerson. LSU was Will Clapp. The year before, Duke Riley from LSU. And, of course, my man Tanzel Smart from Tulane. Hey, the LSU side, we had a late cancellation, but we still got the Tulane side, and that's all that matters. I grew up a Tulane fan, loved the Green Wave, and loved to see the resurgence that Willie Fritz has brought to the program. So for this particular show, in a long history of great DBs, not only they've been on this show, but lately going from college to the NFL, we had Perry Nickerson, like I said last year. We've also had Lorenzo Doss, who got a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos, who is now with the Panthers, Darian Monroe, and then this year we had Rod Teamer, who's also going to be in this draft. He's a Brother Martin grad. But Donnie Lewis Jr. is right here, Central High School in Baton Rouge. We get a lot of ratings up in Baton Rouge. And here he is. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Pleasure to be here, my man.
Feels like you've been around Tulane a long, long time. I know you're a fifth-year senior.
Yeah, real long.
Real long. It kind of feels like you've been around since the Bush administration, but I know it's been since Obama. What's it been like? What's this whole run from Central High to 5 years at Tulane to getting ready for the draft been like for you?
Start off in high school, real small guy, wasn't heavily recruited. I think my final decision came down between Tulane and UL Lafayette, and actually they had played that year in the New Orleans Bowl, and UL Lafayette ended up beating Tulane, so I was like scratching my head.
Tulane had a missed field goal at the end.
Yeah,
Cairo
man,
Santos.
but he's great though. Cairo's good,
phenomenal.
he's a baller. But yeah, though, senior year, in high school, started getting offers, ended up finishing with 7 interceptions.
Your senior year?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right.
And then I ended up going to the Red Stick Bowl, which is down in Baton Rouge, and I ended up getting a pick 6 in that game, and I also got the MVP of that game. So,
right.
After that, but by that time I had committed to Tulane already. So Tulane commitment was, got that my second week of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Second round of the playoffs. So
CJ in the group, I know it's Curtis Johnson, who's now the Saints wide receivers coach, was the head coach.
Yes, sir.
And obviously they came and saw that game, and you got a pick. That didn't hurt your situation, did it?
Yes, sir. It helped me out a lot, man. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you started 45 games. I mean, think about how hard that is to do. 45 starts, 13 this year, 12 the year before, 10 the year before that, 9 the year before that. So you just kind of incremented it up. I mean, when you look at yourself as a kid coming when you started Central High School as a freshman and you're looking to where you are now, getting ready for the NFL draft, I mean, does it just kind of seem like a whirlwind to you?
Yeah, man, it's wild, it's crazy, but it's a dream come true, man. You know, like I worked hard. I worked harder than like a lot of people would think so, you know, because, you know, coming from a little school such as Tulane, which is considered little school, you know, have to work harder. But our conference is on the grow, and we've had some great players come out, as you mentioned.
You really have.
So I kind of had a tradition to live up to, so that like made me step my game up to another level.
Y'all have had a lot of pride in the defensive backs, I think, since you've been there. I know when you got there, you talked about Doss and then obviously Darian Monroe. I know you had Batiste there for a while before he went over to Southeastern, but you've continued that. I mean, Perry Nickerson and you mentioned Torian Nixon. I mean, some really good defensive backs. I mean, pro-level guys.
Yes, sir.
Now, what was it like kind of being the next guy?
Man, you know, it was some big shoes to fill, you know, especially with Perry doing what he did. Perry and Doss, they were like interception machines. So like Perry's senior year, my junior year, we would like compete just to make each other better. Like this game, I'm gonna get more picks than you. Like we used to talk like that to make each other better.
Sure.
So senior year, you know, Coach J.J. McCluskey came in, and when he came in, me and him had a heart-to-heart talk because, you know, he played in the league. So we had a heart-to-heart talk, and he was just telling me about what it was gonna take for me to get into the league. So, you know, I sat with him, chat with him, and
he's pretty stacked. I mean, look at his legs right there.
Yeah, man.
I mean, this guy's a former Saint, obviously, former Cardinal.
And he can still run.
He played it, and his son is now going to be the star wide receiver, I imagine.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's going to be kind of fun to watch, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be a show, man. I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table this year.
You mentioned the bowl that Tulane got to right before you got there, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you had a couple lean years, and then all of a sudden Fritz comes in, and he starts changing the culture a little bit in a different way.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not saying, because I love Curtis Johnson, so there's
sir.
no way I'm ever saying anything bad about him. But it just kind of changed a little bit. What was the difference of the regime and what Fritz brought to the table?
Coach Fritz, I wouldn't say that Coach Curtis isn't a man about business, but like Coach Fritz made it known, like from day one, he was all about business. Like when he first got there, he got rid of like 10 dudes in like the first week. So we were all like,
so they were done.
Yeah, he was like, no Joy Boys, no none of that.
So what happens to make you done? I mean,
man, you know, just like you're not considered a Tulane guy, and a Tulane guy is a guy who's all about, you know, character first and foremost.
Right.
Like a we guy as opposed to a me guy. So that's the best. Like that's the best way I could put it. It's more of a we guy as opposed to a me guy. So.
What are you laughing at right there?
Oh man, that's just my personality, man. Like I'm just always.
I mean, you look like you're really laughing right there.
Yeah, man. I was down there in Rhode Island with a couple other teammates, and you know, we like to joke around a lot. So you know me. I'm always have a smile on my face.
You do have a phenomenal personality. I got to give you just when meeting you, I was looking forward to this for a long time, and I'm glad you're here. But I have to ask you a question. You went in with the Saints defensive back coaches, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then they asked you to kind of game plan some stuff or talk about it. Explain that.
Yes,
I'm curious how that went.
Oh, man. I'm at Pro Day, and I assume a lot of the teams were disappointed I didn't do anything. But, you know, I had the injury in January, so I was like, I'm going to play it longer. I'm not going to re-injure it. So I'm at Pro Day just walking around, and as Pro Day's coming to an end, you know, I'm talking from team to team, and the Saints are like, hey, man, we want to get you to come upstairs real quick and get you on the board, see what you know. So I'm like, okay, this cake, like, you know, because I played so many positions.
Where was your pro day?
It was at the Saints.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so you just went upstairs to the Saints facility.
I just went upstairs to the Saints
All
facility.
right.
Yeah, so we get up there, and he's like, all right now. Like, he's like, all right, we're going to put you on the board.
Who was this now? Was this Aaron Glenn? Or?
I believe so. So he put me on the board, and he's like, man, we're going to see how much you know, how fast you can catch on and whatnot. So, you know, I'm like, okay, let's see what you got. So he teach me this coverage, and like as he's teaching it, I'm like, all right, I got it. Like I got the nickel to safety and the corner. So he's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. So he's like, what you got here? And I was like, man, I got this. So he was like, okay. So then he turns the film on. He was like, I'm gonna see how much you really know as opposed to paper. So I'm like, all right. So he cut the film on. He let about 5 or 6 clips roll. And I'm calling them out. I'm like nickel right, down left. Like I'm just calling them back and forth. And he's like, if he motions, what's this? So I'm just, you know, giving real good communication. And he's impressed. He's like, whoa, like I had more things for to teach you, but you caught on so fast that I didn't need to go any further.
I mean, listen, I know there's 32 teams, but how amazing would it be if you just ended up in New Orleans?
Yeah, man.
I mean, come on.
It'll be a blessing, you know, especially like for like family reason, you know, me being from Louisiana and, you know, the Saints being the big team in the state, that would definitely be a blessing for the home team and represent.
Your personality is going to take you a long way no matter what you do post NFL and all that, whenever that's done. Talk about what Tulane and getting that degree means to you as a person.
Oh man, that was the biggest blessing of them all, you know, because, you know, I sat there and I was like, man, this football stuff, like, it's real, but, you know, a couple injuries from here and there. But when you're getting recruited by Tulane, they teach you it's a 4 for 40-year decision. So, you know.
I've heard it many times.
Yeah, so that's something that really sticks with you. And going into my senior year, once I redshirted, I was kind of upset because I was like, man, I'm trying to get out of here. Like, I feel like I'm good enough. But the degree was the biggest accomplishment I had. And, like, that made my mom so proud that I got that degree. And I was just like.
Well, your first tattoo, you got some beautiful ink right there. And you know, is of your mom. I mean, it's the cross, and you got your mother, you got your sister, your two brothers, I guess.
Yes. Sir.
That's awesome. And by the way, your favorite.
Yes.
Because I did my research too. Your favorite one is right there. It's the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Now tell me what the significance of that one right there. It's actually perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it looks exactly like him. Tell me why you like him so much.
Man, I just love his personality, you know. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but, you know, it's just that I watched The Dark Knight so much, and I'm a guy all about, you know, like I said, I'm a high-spirited guy all about laughter and stuff, and his quote on, like, why so serious just hits me.
Why so serious?
It hits me so many ways because, like, there's so many situations in life where you don't have to be as serious. Like football, for example, like before the game, man, I see guys like 2 hours before the game just mad, and I'm like, dude, we don't play for 2 hours.
Right, dude. Like, you want to save that a little bit?
Yeah, like.
Why so serious? Did you just show me your arm?
Nah, man. They already know. Like on game day, I'm usually like listening to my music flowing. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Heath Ledger, phenomenal actor. Unfortunately, he passed away right, I guess, during it, because I think he passed away posthumously. Hey, going forward, you know, what teams have contacted you? I mean, how does that work? I mean, I know, you know, some do, others, you know, wait, and sometimes you never know if they're going to be. Because I've had many people sit in this chair and tell me, oh yeah, I think it's going to be one of these teams, and then it's a full other team. All of a sudden, the New York Jets take Perry next to them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't hear from them.
Yeah. It's crazy, you know. But with me going to the East-West Shrine game, that got me out there a lot. I ended up, like, the first day I met with about 6 teams, and I was like, wait, why is everybody else meeting with so many teams and I'm not? But really, they had the wrong phone number. So I was like, okay.
Goodness.
Yeah, they had my old phone number. And then I laid back, and then the next day, I had a great day of practice, and then I ended up meeting with all 32 teams. So,
did you?
Yeah, but I just came from my visits this month. I had about 6 or 7 visits. I went to Atlanta, Cleveland, Miami, Seattle, Cincinnati. I had a local day with the Saints.
So you went to all those places?
Yeah, on official 30-day visits.
Oh, wow. So did any one of those cities stick out as something more cool that you really like to go back to?
Oh, man, a lot of great cities. You know, Houston, Miami, those are great cities.
Miami, let's go ahead. Yeah. You're smiling big on that one.
Yeah.
Tell me about Miami. Did you get down to South Beach at all? Any of that good stuff?
Nah, man, it was all more of a business trip.
Yeah?
You know, I didn't want to get so distracted, but they tell you when you're there, you know, like it's easily to get distracted, and I'm like, man, I come from New Orleans, like I don't think anything is more distracting than New Orleans.
No doubt about it, right? Yeah. Hey, let me say this about, get people excited about, I know you're going to be gone, but the future of Tulane football.
Yes, sir.
I mean, because listen, you got Justin McMillan quarterback, and he went 5-1 to finish the season.
Yes, sir.
And you brought pride back. I mean, listen,
sir.
We all knew that Fitz was going to turn that corner, but they started 2-5 this year. Some excruciating losses, some really good teams too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, deep in your stomach, what were you feeling like? Because you knew you should have probably won against Wake Forest, and you knew you probably had a couple there. They were right there, and y'all were so close.
Yeah.
But to turn it around, I want to talk about how you were feeling at 2-5, and then how were you feeling when you finished 5-1 at the end of the season?
It's crazy, man, you know, because before, like, at the beginning of the year, the seniors got together, and we was like, man, we got to be the ones to do this. Like, we got to be the ones to turn the program around. So we sat with that, and then, like you said, we ended up 2-5, and then at that point, like, we got together and called up a meeting, and we like, man, we got to take over. Like, coaches have done all they could do. We have to have some player leadership, and we got to take over as players. So once we started doing that, we started just clicking on all cylinders. And once we started clicking, we started having fun, and then we just started punishing. Like, we just started getting it.
I mean, how good a feeling is that, though? I mean, all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you had 45 starts, 160 tackles, 7 picks. You had a pick 6 against SMU.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
how good does a pick 6 feel in college?
That was like my best feeling in college. Like, it felt like all my hard work had paid off, film study, and I'm just seeing it, and I'm like, he's not about to throw this. And he throw it, and I'm like, all right, let's roll. So that was like,
he's not about to throw this.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's throwing this.
That's like-
Look, it's on.
as a DB, sometimes things are too good to be true.
Right.
So like when it happens, you like, okay, there we go.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
But
hey, yeah, go ahead.
It was great though, turning the program around, and then the bowl game, it was such a great experience.
Oh, my
like
goodness, huh?
we got to live at the Universal Resort, so like they took care of us. They gave us, all the possibilities with it being a new thing, and then us getting to play UL Lafayette, like I told you, that's who it came down to. So I originally
full circle, right?
Yeah, and then they like to talk smack.
Were they talking noise?
Nah, we shut them up though. Like
Did they take an early lead or something? And how did this game go? I know y'all pounced them big.
Yeah. Early in the game, we got out leveraged on the play,
Yeah.
and then they ended up scoring and getting hype. And we was like, all right, calm down. We just gonna play our ball. And after
What
that,
was the final score?
I don't know. It was ugly.
It was
though.
ugly. I mean, y'all just took it to them. And that was the difference of having a winning season or a losing season, right? You were 6-6 going in.
Yes, sir.
And then you end up 7-6. That's a huge deal. Now you have the momentum for this team going forward. Why the number change? You were 21 early and then
Yes, sir.
finished at 1?
Yeah, man. I've been number 1 all of my life. So
Okay.
like when I first got to Tulane, they were like, man, you can't get number 1, like, cause Devin Powell had it when I first got there, and then they gave it to Aruna, and then I was like, well, now it's my
What's
turn.
a D end having a number 1
Yeah.
number? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, man, but see, my Coach Hampton didn't want me to switch numbers. He was like, nah, man, you've been balling in 21, let's just stay. And I'm like, dude, my mom loves being number 1, so
Do it
I
for
got to
mama.
do this for mom, yeah.
Speaking of family is very important to you. We mentioned
Yes,
your
sir.
tattoo. Talk about your mom.
Oh, man, she means the world to me. She's like my favorite person, and we grew a way bigger bond once I got to college, because my mom is a cardiac nurse. She's been a cardiac nurse for about 24 years, so she's high on school education and things. So anytime I would need anything, I'll just call my mom, and she'll bless me, take care of me.
So, I mean, the biggest proud day your Tulane time besides that pick 6, I mean, graduating from Tulane?
Graduation, yeah, that was definitely the biggest moment.
I mean, how great was it to see your mom on graduation day? I
It
mean,
didn't
that's gotta be
feel
the best.
real. Like I was in awe. Like walking across the stage, seeing all that stuff, I was like, I really did it. Like it was. I don't know, I can't explain.
Well, I hope you come back because I really love your personality.
Yes,
and once you make it big in the NFL, we want to have you back, all right? We give gifts, and usually I can't give it to Tulane players because of NCAA rules for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But hey, man, you did so good. I'm giving you 2 of these Shays Delachey's gift certificates. That's right on campus. I know you still got a little time. You can go over there for lunch
Yeah.
right now.
Oh,
It's right there on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway. And this task performance is the best, softest feeling I've ever put on your body. I'm not joking.
It
Feel
is
that thing
soft.
right there.
It is real
That is
soft.
a Tulane grad that started that company. And then I got you 2 VIP tickets for the rugby. They took it on the chin this week, 25-24 at Seattle. But, man, they are still in first place. This is the real deal. This isn't football sissies. These are no pads. These are real men. So we got you covered for that, too.
I'll check this out too. Thank you, man. I
Donnie
appreciate it.
Lewis Jr., it has been a pleasure.
It's been
I
a
can't
pleasure.
wait for your future and look forward to seeing you, man.
Yes, sir.
And check this guy out, man. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to whatever team he lands on. I will be following for sure. Hey, coming up, we're going to have another NBA segment. We talked about the Eastern Conference first. We saved the Western Conference for next. We got David Grubb coming back. I don't usually have the same guests. I've only done this once before with Ron Swoboda. Well, twice before. Archie Manning did the same thing. But we're coming right back talking NBA playoffs right here on Primetime Sports.
Trucking up to Muscle Show on a dirty dog bus. Won't need.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Listen, that was the Eastern Conference earlier, and then we had Donnie Lewis. What a treat that was. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. But now we're going to talk about the Western Conference, because that is where the champion has come out a lot lately. Other than that 1 year LeBron snuck in and got it. The Golden State Warriors, we all know, are the odds-on favorite, but they might have a little competition. Last year, remember, the Houston Rockets took them to 7 games, and the Rockets got a little stub in the toe yesterday, but they'll win this series against the Jazz. And then in round 2, it's going to be the Rockets and Warriors in one of these great round 2 matchups. We talked about how great that Milwaukee Bucks Boston was. Well, you can times that by 2 with this one. David Grubb, you're back. Good to see you. I don't keep people for 2 segments very often. It's Archie Manning, Ron Sabota, and now you, David Grubb. Those are the only ones. And no, Karl Malone. Those 4.
I do not belong on that Mount Rushmore.
Who does? I mean, come on. The mailman, second leading scorer in NBA history. The first son of New Orleans, Archie Manning. And then Ron Sabota, who made the best catch in World Series history, with all apologies to Willie.
I got to try.
But you're right here, brother. So you're here for a reason, and let's do this. Western Conference, it's always been, for the last, say, almost half dozen years, it's been Golden State and who's going to be in second. How do you look at it this year?
Well, I mean, I think, the gap has closed for Golden State considerably over the last 3 or 4 years, because we've seen them get pushed more and more often. And Houston took them to the limits in the Western Conference Finals.
Without a Chris Paul injury.
Right.
Without a Chris Paul injury, I think most people think that might have been their year to go to the finals.
And they present a challenge for the Golden State, Houston does, that no other team does.
Right.
When you have a James Harden who can get into the paint whenever he wants to, and breaks down your defense so consistently. Well, the Warriors are a great switching team, but you can't switch with Harden because he can make these drives to the basket without help. Doesn't need a pick. He can just get to the rim on his own, so it keeps the Warriors defenders at home. But when they do collapse towards the middle, without great rim protection, he can find a P.J. Tucker in the corner.
Yeah.
He can find Eric Gordon on the wing. And we've seen that. Even in his worst shooting games, he goes 3 for 22 the other night.
0 for 15 to start.
22 points, 11 assists. So
Right.
he can still affect the game even when he's not scoring. And that's a problem for Golden State. That's what tends to make them. I mean, they suffered during the regular season against Houston as well. They did not play well against them all season.
No, and I remember I watched the game when Houston went in there without James Harden into Oracle and beat them. I have to have some fun with this, because this series has been fun to watch. If nothing else, Kevin Durant and Patrick Beverley. I mean, these two. I mean, Patrick Beverley's 6'2", Durant's 7 feet, and Beverley said, "I want this assignment." And you remember the game, and that's game 3 right there. But in game 2, the big comeback.
Right.
When I got home, it was last Monday night. So I get home, I went to a concert at the Orpheum. I get home, and I'm like, wanting to see some good action. You know, I'm an NBA playoff junkie. You can even take playoff that. I'm an NBA junkie. I love it. But I sit there, and I'm turning the TV. I'm like, literally at the point it was 31. They're up 31, and I'm like, oh, my God. Come on, give me a game. So I just sat and watched it. And I'm like, whoa, they're coming back. No way they're coming all the way back, but they're coming back making a game. And they came all the way back from 31 down, and Patrick Beverley was living in Durant's jock, and neither of these two guys made it to the end of a game.
Right.
Either ejected or fouled out until like maybe game 3 or 4. It's funny. But what's your take on this?
I think what you see out of the Clippers is a team that's well coached, just under-talented. They had no business even getting to a 5th game, really.
That's a foul, by the way.
Yeah, that's
a
and Beverley
foul.
had a lot of hand checking and grabbing and pulling. I think what the Clippers really tried to do was they watched the tape of Drew Holiday last season, and Holiday guarded Durant a lot. Now, he was a lot less handsy and physical with Durant, used positioning, but I think when you use a smaller defender on a guy like Durant, you're looking for leverage. You're looking to force him out of his comfort zone. We saw people do that with Shaquille O'Neal back in the day, send smaller forwards at him to kind of just throw him off.
You had to try something, right?
Yeah, so I think, but ultimately Golden State is the far more talented team. They should still be the favorite to win the championship, but it's not like it was 3 years ago when you just expected them to sweep through the playoffs. They've lost 1 game in the first round. I think they could go 7 in the second, and whoever they face in the finals could take a game or 2
I'm
from
going to say this. After the game 2 when they lost, one of my favorite all-time quotes was in that press conference, and they said, you know who I am. You know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant. Yeah, you know me. I'm Kevin Durant. I just loved it. I was like, And then in game 3, he comes out and the guy looked like the best player on the planet. I mean, there was nobody they could put on him that was going to stop him. That's the Kevin Durant. When he is engaged, you know him because he is phenomenal. In that game, he hit everything. He only took like 5 shots until the end of the game. I think he had 8 total in game 2, and all of a sudden he took that many in the first quarter and hit every one of them. When Kevin Durant's on, they're few, if any, better.
Well, I mean, you saw the first 2 games and then now the last 2, and he's up to averaging 29 a game in the playoffs. That's incredible considering how he started and it just wasn't really efficient. He's back over 50% shooting. Kevin Durant's the one player in the league that you have no defense for in what he can do. At 6'11", he can shoot over anybody. He now has a post game. His mid-range game has always been good, and he can shoot from anywhere on the court as far as long distance. So when Durant is on, you have 3 of the greatest, maybe 5 greatest, 10 greatest shooters of all time on one roster. It makes it really hard when 2 of those guys are going, let alone 3. They survived Steph Curry having a poor game in game 4. So if he's back on, even if he's just giving you 25,
he's had weird foul trouble this whole series. It's funny because even game like 3, he came out and he was the one super hot as well as Durant, but all of a sudden he's been in foul trouble game 2 and 3. He's not really getting able to do what he normally does. But that weapon is just ridiculous. I mean, you give him, you don't even need an inch, man. Give him a milli.
And Klay Thompson has no conscience.
I mean,
none.
Yeah, none. When those guys are on, just forget about it. Let's talk about the rest of it because one of the most thrilling series to me, and each team has won a home game and a road game, is the Denver Nuggets, the 2 seed against the San Antonio Spurs. The old guard with some new players like Derek White, but you still have Popovich, you still got a guy named LaMarcus Aldridge, and I'm looking at some of these matchups and I find them fascinating. You got Jokic and Aldridge. You know, I love this one. I've known Aldridge since he was a sophomore in high school out of the state of Texas. He's out of Dallas, and he ends up going to UT. At all these camps I got to know, he is a great guy. I don't know Jokic at all, except I love the way this kid plays basketball, but even the guards. I mean, DeRozan's all-star guard, and he's obviously what they got for Kawhi Leonard, but you add Derek White in that mix, and that gives them an X factor, and Jamal Murray is, to me, going to be the wild card of this whole thing. I shouldn't say wild card because he is their second or third best player. But if this guy contributes, then they're usually going to win, and he did not in the 2 games that they lost.
Yeah, I think the difference has been the inconsistency in Denver's backcourt. Jokic is almost averaging a triple-double in this series, 20 points, 11 boards, 9 assists, and he's only turning it over twice a game.
That's crazy, man.
Twice a game out of your big. So he's having a great series. Paul Millsap has had a rebirth this series.
Yep.
But the guards have not shot the ball well. Gary Harris has not shot it particularly well. And like I said, Jamal Murray has been very inconsistent.
Yeah. Barton, I mean, none of these guys.
Barton, I mean, he went 1 for 13 at a stretch on 3-pointers.
Yeah, that's
so
not going to do it.
They have not been getting the shooting that they were used to during the regular season. When you look at San Antonio, Derek White putting up 20 points a game, he brings athleticism, intensity that they didn't really have out of that position.
Yeah.
And DeRozan's doing DeRozan things, shooting from the mid-range, not a lot of threes. But I think LaMarcus Aldridge has done a fantastic job of hitting those mid-range shots. And the Spurs are just going to execute you to death. And that's what they continue to do. That's what I think when you talk about these are 2 teams that they're all about precision, knowing where people are going to be, and they're throwing each other off at the right times. Right. And I think this absolutely goes 7 because there's such mirror reflections of each other in a lot of ways.
Well, it's been 1 on, 1 off. I mean, San Antonio won the first one, Denver, San Antonio, and then Denver had to get game 4, and they did it convincingly. They came out after looking very lackluster in game 3 and won that one. Now it's back to they have home court advantage. Does it even matter who has home court advantage in this one?
No, I don't think it does because there's nobody has a player that separates them from everybody else.
That's a good point.
And usually when you look at a series, you want to see that one elite player. And I think Jokic is just another year away. He's a guy who got mentioned a lot for MVP this season. Next year, he should be a top 4 candidate, top 3 candidate for MVP. But he's not a guy who takes over a game scoring-wise.
So this was a 7-2 matchup, and most people thought Denver, if anybody, was going to have a little trouble as a high seed because we all know that Houston's better. They're the 4 seed. But the marquee matchup people thought going in would have been the 3-6, and that is the Portland Trail Blazers and Oklahoma City Thunder. And only because they seem kind of even. You know, Portland obviously has the tremendous backcourt, and we all know OKC with Westbrook and George. This series has been lopsided except for Game 3 where Oklahoma City has won, but Portland coming off that sweep from the Pelicans last season. They came in with a little bit of a mission in my mind, and Damian Lillard has really elevated himself in my eyes. I always knew he was a top, say, 10 to 15 player. He's coming into the top 5, in my opinion. This dude can play, and when he needs to score, he scores every time.
Excuse me. The one thing I really looked at in this series is just Oklahoma City's inability to take away the pick and roll for
My
Portland.
goodness, is that the truth?
Lillard loves to run the pick and roll. That's what everybody knows. Most of his offense comes out of the pick and roll. And the reason the Pelicans were able to shut them down last season is because there was nowhere for Lillard to go after he tried to go off screen. And when he didn't have the ball, there was nowhere for him to go because the Drew Holiday was so good at trapping him, cutting him off. Well, this year McCollum is getting his shots. And, of course, Lillard is getting his shots. But then when you look over at Oklahoma City, you've got both Paul George and Russell Westbrook shooting less than 40%. Westbrook seems to be off his game mentally, getting into this battle with Damian Lillard. Neither one of these teams has won a playoff series in 3 years.
In his head. I mean, he is more focused on beating Lillard and being known still as a better player than Lillard. Let's not forget, he was an MVP a couple seasons ago, correct? And Lillard's outplaying him, no doubt about it. But this guy, his three-pointers, not that he was ever a pure shooter, but
he's 20%.
You have zero confidence when he puts the ball up. I mean, it's like, my goodness. And when you look at OKC, that was one home court disadvantage, meaning like they were a team that didn't have the home court, that most people thought they were going to win the series before, but it has proven anything but. Game 5, obviously, we know they're gone, but if they can somehow win Game 5, do they have any chance of winning 3 in a row here?
No.
None, huh?
I mean, they've just eliminated Steven Adams from this series. He hasn't had any impact. And for Adams,
with Nurkic out, you think that should be an advantage, right?
No pick and rolls. You don't see anything with him going towards the basket, and they're not getting anything from their bench.
Yeah, I mean, Paul George, he's
playoff P.
Playoff. He's hampered a little bit with some shoulder issues, but still, he's still Paul George. And this guy was an MVP candidate at one time. Done? Is this whole thing done with them, I guess?
Yeah, I don't understand what Oklahoma City's trying to do long term. They just don't. They're over the cap. I don't know how they're going to refigure their roster, but this is another disappointing season.
I got to ask you though. Now that we've looked at every playoff series, how do you see this thing unfolding for the next couple of rounds?
The West is. I think Golden State escapes Houston. I just think that they will. And then I'll give Denver the slight advantage just because they do have home court advantage. So we'll take Denver and Portland, but I think Portland beats Denver.
Wow.
So you get Golden State and Portland in the
So is Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith going to get their Portland prediction to the final?
Maybe. I think they give them a shot. I really think you give them a shot. Now, it all comes, how do they defend Durant? Because I think up front they can do things that will be difficult. I think Cantor gives them a guy who can score on offensive rebounds. And
what about the East?
In the East, I think Milwaukee and Toronto are on a collision course, and I think Milwaukee in the final with. I still have to hold on the West, but I think Milwaukee makes it to the final.
So no Boston, no Philly.
No.
You're like for sure.
For sure.
All right, and then the champs. Can Milwaukee's had a good run against Golden State. Even when Golden State had those 20-something wins or whatever it was, Milwaukee was the team that beat them.
Milwaukee gets home court too,
and they get home court. Can they do it?
I think they could win. I absolutely think they could win.
They're well-rounded. Just like yourself, David Grubb. Thank you. You've already signed the ball, but we do have gifts. I know you got one of these Task Performance shirts. Did you like it?
I love it. It's still hanging in my closet. I treat it with care.
You treat it with care, hanging up nicely, softly.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to give you 2 gift certificates because you had 2 segments. You did so well.
Thank you.
Bring your beautiful wife down there. And also, I'm going to give you 2 tickets to the NOLA Gold Rugby. This is a sport where real men play. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
These guys are rough and tough, and these are major league athletes. This isn't any minor league stuff that's down the street. Major leagues right here. It's the NOLA Gold, so I'm going to get you some tickets to that.
Yeah, my daughter is going to love it too.
They just got a new home game on the 4th, by the way, because Austin, they have an issue with their stadium, so it's going to be May 4th, May 11th, and May 18th, all home matches. You let me know which one you want, and I got 2 tickets coming your way.
Sir.
There he is. That's David Grubb from CrescentCitySports.com. Check his stuff out. Phenomenal. He is the Pelicans beat writer, but he does so much more over there. Check him out and follow those guys because that website has been nothing but good to us, and I love those guys too. So, hey, we appreciate everybody here. Donnie Lewis Jr., I wish you the best of luck in your career. And everybody here at WLAE Can't thank them all enough. William Hill, the producer, he does so much over here, and we love him. Naila, Lexi, Redhead Tsunami, and Hunter, I hope you're enjoying your vacation, my little intern. Hey, we'll be back. CST, WLE, thank you very much. We'll see you next week on Primetime Sports.
The owners of the Delachaise Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachaise, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachaise, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style in fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with shirts, belts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of people from the Crescent City. The tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.